What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The one and only James Williams, Dope Waters, and I'm back. This is a great interview that I did with Stan Deyo, and I'm going to ask for your assistance in something. I am attaching the link to his PayPal donation button at the start of this interview. We'll probably get, over time, 10,000 people to watch this video. And I'm hoping that I can get 100 of you 10,000 to donate $10 to this gentleman, because these are the generals that God has given us when it comes to researching these strange and weird things and bringing us revelation and truth. In this video, you're going to see him show you where the Garden of Eden is. You're going to see him explain to you where Atlantis is. You're going to see him show you things that, quite frankly, everybody's like speculating on, but he makes it extremely simple for you to find and view for yourself. Um, and I need your guys' help with it. I'm going to post a link. Now, you don't have to give a whole bunch of money. $5, $10. If we get 200 people to give $5, I'm cool with that. If we can get 100 people to give $10, it would be fantastic. Just as a way of blessing those who are blessing us with real information. And I need you to understand, when we're talking about like giants and Atlantis and the Garden of Eden and fallen angels, there are two different priesthoods that are active. There's a priesthood that I call the priesthood of the Nephilim, the priesthood of the giants. And that priesthood, it's all about kind of like bringing confusion and sowing confusion into people's lives. That priesthood does not show you anything. That priesthood does not give you any evidence. That priesthood is about giving you stories and anecdotes and disinformation. Then there's the priesthood of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the men he's chosen. Those men give you evidence. They give you reports. They give you Latin longs. They give you facts. And so the reason why one priesthood is more popular is because it's more entertaining than the other. Facts are not entertaining, ladies and gentlemen. Facts are just facts. This is the fact that this is your thumb. There's nothing entertaining about your thumb. And so, because it's just the facts and there's not much entertaining about it, these guys don't tend to get the monetization that they need. Now, I'm going to match whatever ends up hitting, and we're going to go ahead and get these guys taken care of.
Hold on one second. We're about to get to the bottom of this, ladies and gentlemen. This don't make no sense whatsoever. Welcome to the Dark Waters channel, where we explore mysteries, figure out the truth, dive into politics, and anything else you want to know about. That's what we doing over here, baby. Let's go.
Alrighty. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and one and only James Williams, Dark Waters, and I'm back. And today I have a very special guest with you guys. A couple of weeks ago, Brother Steve Quell came over to spend some time with us. And as you know, Steve hammered away on many of things, including giants, Nephilim, and most importantly, how important it is to understand that Jesus Christ is Lord. In the midst of all of this, what I would call kind of distractions, because you can get distracted and brought down the rabbit hole of giants and won't find Christ. You'll find all this knowledge about giants, but it won't prosper you. And so we follow up with Brother Stan Deyo, and he's here to do something similar. And I'm excited about having him here. These guys are what I call generals that the Lord has in the field of these, I would call exploration as it pertains to the kingdom. They bring out things that prove the existence of not only Jesus Christ, but that the Bible is real. And it's important that these men get their flowers and they get highlighted. So, ladies and gentlemen, when Stan gives out the information as to his website and any books that he has, I'm going to require of you to go ahead and make a purchase, because all too often, guys, these sacrifices and the things that these men go through in order to get this information to you, they don't share publicly a lot of it. I know they don't. And the warfare that they go through to get to this point to where they can share these things with you, they don't share those things publicly. But as a person who is outspoken about Jesus Christ in the public field, I know the extent of the warfare that I've been through. And I can only imagine these guys who've been on the battlefield for 20, 30 years, the things that they've seen. With that being said, Stan, welcome to the Dark Waters. Thank you for taking a swim with us. Where would you like to start, sir? Your name is Ring, so people know about you. But if you feel like you want to fill everybody in for new people who haven't heard about you, feel free to.
Well, all right, James. It's good to chat with you here. I'm coming to you from the high desert plains of Colorado, Pueblo West, actually. Um, my my website, standeyo.com, that's STANDEYO.com, lists our books and DVDs and things like that. And I update a thing called Show Images page you can get to from my homepage. When I have new news to talk about, whether it be the possibility of somebody being an Antichrist or the Antichrist at this time, or whether it be current news events or UFOs, that kind of stuff. But all of these things that I have done and been credited with on the internet are because the good Lord Himself, Yahshua, guided me in these things. All my life, I just tried to live every day and live a good life. And up until about age, I don't know, 24, 25, I was thinking that maybe I would pursue being a rich man, by the time I was 30. But I had an out of body experience, a near death experience with the Lord, which turned me right around and set me on a course to, you know, um, work on anti-gravity with Dr. Edward Teller and his crew down in Australia, and cover up of UFOs, to find the Garden of Eden, to find Atlantis, which was connected to Eden through the biblical passages, to find the cause of the Great Flood, and to share that information with various geophysicists in Australia and America. They were looking for this asteroid, and I found it. Um, all by the grace of God. And He's given me a mind to be able to solve pretty hairy puzzles sometimes to put it all together. But I felt when I look back over my life that the most important thing was to prove to people that, hey, God is real. God did create Adam and Eve, and there is and was a Garden of Eden that you can visit today. And that proves the authenticity of the Bible because I use the Bible in Hebrew and English both to find the clues that led to the Garden of Eden. And then for the people that weren't Christian, that followed, philosophical things like Atlantis and Mu and Lemuria and that kind of stuff, this was a follow-on from finding the Garden of Eden because I traced the path of Adam and Eve's children where they migrated to, and that led me to Saudi Arabia, the whole continent or whole peninsula at the time. And this explained the giants appearing after the flood, and so that Joshua had to kill certain villages that had bad DNA from the crossbreeding that the fallen ones did. There were just one thing led to another, to another, to another. And so, although I did do these things, I must say the credit goes to the good Lord who put all that in my head and helped me solve it all. I do remember when I was out there out of my body in that smooth darkness, He was showing me things, and I was seeing like the universe. And I said to him, how does all this work? And that was a simple question with a big answer that came to me over years and years of dream visions after that. So I thank the good Lord for that. And I don't know where I want to go today. Do I talk about visiting the Garden of Eden? Do we talk about Atlantis? Where do you want to go, James?
I think we start with let's start with the Garden of Eden, because I think one of the things that many people will try and dispute is there's these narratives going around that the Garden of Eden was a dome in which aliens planted humans. And I would like to start with the Garden of Eden because what I found, Brother Stan, is that my background is originally in cryptids. I mean, hardcore research of cryptids, talking to eyewitnesses, documenting lats and longs and locations and all the rest of these things. But one of the things that came out of that is I found that there's a direct connection to people who have faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the encounter that they have versus people who don't have faith and the encounter that they have. And then when you talk to those people who say, I don't believe in Jesus, and then you start to dig down into why, they come up with all these theories. Oh, well, man, the Garden of Eden was just, the Anunnaki planted us there, and this and this and this. And it's like it's another gospel that compares itself and competes with the gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And so I think if we're going to chop at the tree, let's start chopping at the base of the tree, which would be right there, if you don't mind.
All right. Yeah. Look, I was raised in a Presbyterian home and kind of strayed in my early youth, but that near-death experience, the Lord turned me right around, and since then, I started trying to prove things in the Bible. I studied Hebrew and a bit of Greek so that I could get to the original languages. And I even studied, when I was in Australia, I studied with a New York rabbi that was there in Perth at the time. And we got into a lot of the secret things that they don't tell their congregations. But I looked at Genesis in Hebrew, that's Bereshit. And Genesis 2:8 through 2:14 talks about the rivers of Eden. And it talks about the land of Eden. And so I had to find Eden from the clues, and I had to find the 4 rivers that came from it. And it took me a while. Let me just see if I think I can share something with you here. Let me just try that.
Okay.
I hope that works here. And where is that? That one there. Okay. Okay, I'm sharing. Are you pulling it up? Ah, good. This is from a lecture that I gave back in about 2014 when I'd first discovered the Garden of Eden. I was showing how I did it. Now here, it gives the name of the 4 rivers that I had to find: Pishon, Gihon, Farat, and all these rivers. I had to find a location for them, especially Euphrates, which was one of the most difficult one to find. What had happened is in the Hebrew, they mentioned in the old documents in Genesis that, and the river Ephrat, they repeated Euphrates twice. And so I got with the rabbis and they said, oh, that was a original way that we would make a plural of things. There was more than one Euphrates. And I said, well, what do you mean? They said, well, it was broken. And so I had to find a broken river Euphrates. And let's see if I can pull that up here. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to here. Okay. I'm trying to find a good picture of that here, because Euphrates was broken. It used to go, let's see here. Well, here. Nowadays, they look for the Euphrates that comes down out of the Mediterranean area and goes down into the Persian Gulf, or Gulf of Arabia, whatever we want to call it now. And it's broken. This is the upper Farat, upper Euphrates here. Okay. It goes down into there. So people thought the Garden of Eden had to be at the end of this river, this broken part of Euphrates. But a river doesn't flow uphill. This is a river flowing downhill, so away from a source. So this wasn't the Garden of Eden down here. It had to be somewhere else. And so I traced back. This is part of that Euphrates that goes down to the Gulf of Arabia. And you'll see here that it was broken when the continents were broken up, when Pangaea was broken up. It used to flow along the coastline of the Levant, by Lebanon and down by Israel.
Okay.
And so tracing that, it kept going. And I traced it to this area here. It comes along here. Here's the Sinai, and here's the coastline. And it came into, could have been the river Euphrates could have come from Egypt, as well as another tributary down here, which I saw. And but either one of them that I used, either this one here or that one there, both were part of the Euphrates that was broken in 2, just like the rabbi said it would be. And so that led me to follow either the Nile route or the Red Sea route, either one, all the way over here to here, which meant that the source of the Euphrates had to be tall, had to be
higher, right?
And it had to be strong, because it was going to divide, the continents eventually, but the 4 rivers that came out of the Garden of Eden. So, through, various trial and error, I followed either the Red Sea path or the Nile River path. And this is part of my lecture notes here I'm getting to. And so there's the Red Sea route, and then the one that was the Nile River I showed you a while ago. Now, using that, I was able to say, well, let's put all the continents back together. Let's move India down here. And if you look at the mud map, the sea bottom here, India used to go all the way down here and fill in this foot. India got pushed up here to form this ridge, the Himalaya Mountains. And that's why they find sea fossils at the top of the Himalayas. It's because this all used to be down at close to sea level before something caused the continents to split apart, and that something was an asteroid impact down here, which we can get to later. But I needed to find the Garden of Eden, and so I started looking at, well, okay, how do I find like Cush? And there were clues here. Let's see here, Cush. Okay, I looked at Iran as one of the possible sources of one of the rivers around it, and I thought, well, if there is a land of Cush, which the four rivers, one of the four rivers went around. Here it says here, Cush is the second river, is Gihon, and they call it the land of Ethiopia, Cush, but it was not. That's the African Cush. The European Cush was up in Iraq, Iran area, and so I had to find where the borders of Cush would be, the European Kush or the Asian Kush. And so I started looking, see all these little pins here, these little yellow pins.
Yes.
I looked for cities that had the name of Kosh, Kush, with a Q, with a K, all of them. And these outlined the borders of ancient Kush.
Kush. That makes all the sense in the world. Yeah.
And so just a logical way to do it. And then you can see Iraq was here and Persian Gulf here. And so once I had Kush, then I was able to start looking for the other rivers. And just a note here, before the continents were split apart, this is the Red Sea, Arabia, Iran. All it was all part of Pangaea, which was one giant landmass. And let's see here. We'll go down to this one here. So I had to trace these things backwards. I traced the one from Iran, the Gihon, back around here, and it had to come in a narrow gap here when India was connected to the northeast part of Africa, and Madagascar was up here on the coast of Africa. And now Gihon is, if you outline it here, it goes around like that. It came from a starting point here. And so did the Tigris. I followed it here in Iraq area, in Iran, and I found that this greenish blue thing that was the Tigris. It came from somewhere here in the Gulf of Aden. Believe it or not, they call it the Gulf of Eden or Aden, right here where Yemen is, and where the Danakil Plains of Northeast Africa are, right here. Fascinating thing. So I traced them all to here, even the Euphrates back to this point here. And I thought, well, then it must be here at this point. Now, at that time, I didn't have the red line going all the way up into Tanzania. I stopped right here where the Danakil Plains were, thinking that was where all four rivers came from. And so I started looking in detail, trying to find, where it started in the Danakil Plains. And I really couldn't find a place that fit the description with all the volcanoes and stuff. So I thought, well, I'll have to trace this area here and see where the water came from to the Danakil Plains right here.
Right.
To my surprise, there was one great, huge amount of water that came down from Tanzania. I had to trace it back mile by mile. It's called the Great East African Rift. And that water flow came from a point somewhere up in Tanzania. So mile by mile, I traced with Google Earth all the way up here, all the way up here, all the way up here. And I got to this point here, and I found myself at a place that was about an altitude of 10,000 feet. And it had big, scores of water flow from it. And I thought, well, goodness gracious, what could that be? And this is where I ended up tracing that river back up. Now, that turned out to be a place that Africans call Africa's Garden of Eden, a natural wonder. Well, when I found that, then I realized I've got it. This is it. And I started tracing things and looking for volcanoes around the area, and where all these rivers came out of the Garden of Eden. This is the Garden of Eden here in the Ngorongoro crater. These rivers came from this water flow that came up here in an area of about 20 acres, and it flowed down the hill and chewed out riverbeds that eventually, when the asteroid hit that split the Earth apart, or Pangaea, that broke along those lines. These are just some of the topography showing you that. So I realized then, okay, I've got the Garden of Eden. Let's look at some of the other clues. It said the Garden of Eden, had stones of fire. Well, um, there are about 45 volcanoes around the Garden of Eden, which is over here in this part here. And that little saltwater lake there is what's left of the water flow that was in the Garden of Eden. This whole area here is the Ngorongoro Plateau, and it has volcano here, volcano there, volcano there, volcano here, volcanoes everywhere, including the Kilimanjaro series. There were 3 there. Now, it said that when Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden and put out, to fend on their own, that angels, fairy angels, will put their flaming swords to guard the way, so you couldn't get into the Garden of Eden. But when you read the passage in the Hebrew, actually, the angels with the fiery swords and stuff, when you translate that in Hebrew, it's the spinning fiery, like vortices, not a sword, but like a vortex, like a tornado in essence, of sparkly fire that guarded the way, but also lit the way to the Garden of Eden. If you were coming in off of the coast here, you would go by Kilimanjaro, and Kilimanjaro had 3 volcanoes, and they, at one time, the one in the center of Kilimanjaro range was a mountain of light because it was so bright, and it had a spinning fire over it, and it lit the way, following all the way up here to the Garden of Eden. It didn't prevent you; it lit the way. And so that was how I was able to then go up here to the Garden of Eden and track back Pishon and the land of Havilah, which was known for its gold and silver. All these things were clues that I followed one by one that were in the Bible to be sure that that was what God was, and no other published work or anything else, just what came out of the Hebrew and the Bible. Just a fascinating thing. Fascinating thing.
Wow, I've never heard that explained like that. The source. Why is my camera doing this? Come on, camera, quit it.
Put your hand right up on the lens and back off. Sometimes that makes it refocus. There you go. There you go.
Somebody got. Oh, there we go. Cooking
Yeah.
with grease. That's better. The water, the source of water for the rivers, was that coming from inside of the earth? The waters that the Bible refers to inside of the earth?
Yes. Let me see if I've got a picture of that, which will help. Yes, there's one right there. Let me put this into a Photoshop image somewhere here. Let me have it. Okay. And I'll show you that here. We put this out of the way and share, present. Sorry, I have to talk myself through this. I'm an old guy.
No, it's okay. We got all the time in the world for you, brother. Take your time.
Okay, good. Okay. Now, this is a map I made of the whole Eden complex. Garden of Eden is down here at the end of this arrow in that little bitty tiny place right there. We'll get to that in a minute. But right next to that is a place that is not often, people don't pay attention to it. But this is Lake Victoria here. Huge amount of water. And if you look at the oval shape and the trail leading up to it, I think this was an ancient comet of water that hit here to form Lake Victoria, which was Eden itself. But east of Eden is here. You see what east of Eden is here?
Is there? Gotcha.
Okay. And this water here was heated underneath the ground by about 45 different volcanoes and magma fields underneath it. And it caused the water to flow up into this area right here where the Garden of Eden is at the top of it, and split into 4 rivers coming down like this and making the Great East African Rift, which goes all the way to the Danakil Plains, where I thought it was originally. And you can see the tear in the bottom of the ocean here.
Yep.
You just follow these things. I mean, it's right there in front of you. So I realized I needed to look at some of the seabed as well. So I went to the Scripps Institute in California, and I said, look, have you guys got any current bathymetry of the ocean in that area? Yes, we do. We haven't given it to Google Earth yet, but we'll give you a copy to try. So I got an early copy of that to look at these things, which are footprints of where continents were and how they moved and that kind of stuff. Now, that was that. Let's see, is this the one we want here? We've got that there. Okay.
What the frame where you say Eden like a womb? Where's that coming from? That's
Oh,
the
okay.
biblical. Break that down for me. For my,
Well,
because I don't
okay.
know nothing about that.
Okay. Well, something I noticed while going over all these things is this Lake Victoria looked like a womb, a woman. And there was a birthing of the child, or Adam and Eve, and down the birth canal like this over to where they went into Saudi Arabia, where they left their birthplace. It was like a birth canal. Uh,
Gotcha.
I just noticed that. I mean, I don't know that anybody said that, but God planted all this water there, the volcanoes to heat it, and then the place for Adam and Eve to live for a short time, and then for these four rivers to come out and split the earth into four major regions at the time. Um, let's see if I can get you another image here. I've got so many of these things here that I want to share with you.
And it makes sense. All this makes sense in relation to geopolitics, what's going on right now, because all the warfare on the planet has been basically hinges around what goes on in these areas. Continuously, just continuous warfare from that portion northward is just war. And it's been war and war and fighting and war and fighting and war,
It is. And if you look at the three sons of Noah, you look at the Shem, for the Shemites, Israelis and the Arabs, Shemites, they had a swath going through, from left to right through the Middle East. And above that were the sons, one of the sons was Japheth. And that was the Chinese races up there, so a band running parallel. And then south of that was Ham. Now, Ham had two locations, one in Africa, and it tried to occupy where Israel is today, but that didn't happen. They got moved down there. But the three bands, the three basic bands of our human culture, ran across that area. Quite an interesting study. But I'm going to show you. Let's see here. I'm going to take you inside the Garden of Eden in a second here. We took an expedition over there in 2016, I think it was.
Yeah, I was going to ask, had you had to go there, bro? I was going to say I got to see the pictures of when you went there.
It's interesting because I was over 70 at the time, and going up a 10,000-foot mountain didn't really appeal to me. I was pretty bad health, but a couple of people that watched my videos and things, a young couple that had a jewelry shop over in Pennsylvania, they said, look, let's go take a safari over there. I said, oh, look, I don't really want to do that. So they kept hammering at me for months. I said, look, we're paying for it. We're going to go over there. We'll take a camera crew and we're going to film the Garden of Eden. All right, I said, I'll do it. I thought, gee whiz. All right. And so I grumbled probably all the way over on the plane because it was uncomfortable for 22 hours. But we landed there just not far from Kilimanjaro and then explored the entire Garden of Eden and the areas around it, picking things out that were part of the Bible. One of the most incredible finds was where the two trees that Adam and Eve were not supposed to eat from, where that was located, and the logic of it, from the Hebrews in the midst of the garden. Anyway, let's see. Okay. So many things I want to show. One of the things that I noticed, let's see if that's there. Yeah, we don't want to do that. That's in the wrong place. I'm going to go back to the Photoshop thing here and show you something that really piqued my interest at the top of the whole Ngorongoro plateau here. Okay, present. Now I'll stay in Photoshop for a while I talk, if you don't mind. I several images to throw in there.
I'll make sure it didn't drop it out.
There. Okay. Are we in there now?
Yeah, we're in there.
Now, this, I noticed that with Google Earth, I could plot contours, how high, a certain line was. And
right.
So I plotted this area here up at the top of the Ngorongoro Plateau, the high point. And I noticed this square thing that eventually opened out into like a ramp leading down into it. And I thought, what the dickens is that? It's, at 9,600 feet. And this whole area here is about 20 acres. And I thought, I see little black dots in there, which are like springs, and you can see the outline of all these here where the springs are come and go, and water was welling up from somewhere, from Lake Victoria eventually. And so I noticed all that, and I thought, right, okay, um, let's now. This is an overhead view of Ngorongoro. Big hole is what it means in Swahili. The big hole is the Garden of Eden. This is 100 square miles. And here's the salt water left after all the rains and stuff have washed the salt from the surrounding walls of the volcano that collapsed. But it's still 2,000 feet high around the rim, and that formed a gan, which is a circle garden area.
Okay.
And here in an area that you can hardly see at this point is where 55 generations of Maasai and Datoga chiefs are buried. And I talked with the tribal members, the prophecy keepers of both tribes, and I asked them about the legend of this area, and they said, "Oh, this is where their equivalent for the name of God came down from the heavens, created man in this area, and then went back up in the heavens to let man be on his own." So they all had the Garden of Eden
Wow.
story, and these graves here are rocks piled upon rocks. I think I have a shot of that later I can show. But how much time have I got here?
Take as much time as you want.
Oh, excellent. All
As
right.
much time as you want. I'm not in a rush at all. This is interesting. This is you educating me on a level that, man, I'm so thankful for this. You
Well,
don't even
look, this
understand.
is when I was discovering this. I got to tell you, Holly, my wife, would be here one day, and I'd say, "Look at this! I just discovered that proves this here." And the hair on the back of your neck just stands straight out. You realize you really discovered something, you know. Anyway,
Hmm.
right here, we're seeing a bunch of these little white areas, which are stones. With some of them have fig trees growing around them. They are like 55 generations, 55 kings of the Datoga primarily, but some of the Maasai. Um, which preserved this area as a holy place. And each year they all make a trek from where they are in Africa to this place to hold like worship near the two great fig trees that are there, the area of the two trees.
Hmm.
It's, this is here, you can see, whoops, I keep getting my things here. Lake Magli is Salt Lake. But if you look at this thing, we stayed in a hotel here on the edge of the rim, the
Okay.
Sopa Ngara Hotel, and we came down two ways. We came down primarily from this one, and this white line follows it. And where we were here, you can just see this little black smudge. There's a
Hmm.
huge fig tree. Interesting. This whole Garden of Eden has fig trees growing all over it. And so we followed down along there, and then we took this dirt road over here, across the river here, the stream. And then we went to Ingatati Hill, and that is where the two trees of Garden and Eden were. One here on this half, one here on this half, with a stream that came up in the middle and watered them, and the stream flowed down like this.
Wow.
This is where it happened. And we did go there, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But looking at this, you see water coming down over the rim and into the Garden of Eden to water it. And there
Hmm.
was some also from the rains here over on this side that came in. But the main water came from up here. And so we needed to find where that water was and why it was. And that area I showed you where those squares were a while ago,
Okay.
uh, uh, here, this is where that water came from. Now we're looking down over the top, and the Garden of Eden itself is that way in this drawing, going down
Okay.
into the Ngoro crater. And this is like 20 acres. I mean, it was a huge amount of water. We calculated it from the sources and from the grooves that were cut in the side of the mountain. Even the conservancy, it's a UNESCO site, they did not know where those great grooves that were cut, down here and down this way, where those great grooves came from. And I explained to them how the salt water, the hot water and stuff, sorry, not salt water, but the hot water from the Lake Victoria bubbled up here, sprouted up here, and etched holes down the side of that mountain. Now let's see here. Is this a good one here? That we've already got a view on that. Sorry to talk you through this like this, but this
No,
is
no, don't worry. I'm learning, and I'm pretty sure everybody who's watching this and will watch this will be just as excited as I am. So don't stress any of that. Okay, so
okay.
that yellow spot is that same high place then, right?
That's
Where the
the
water
same
flow.
high place. You can see here a large volcanic crater here.
Right.
And off the side of here is another one just outside the rim of the crater. And you know what they call this mountain? The
What?
mountain of God,
Wow.
Oldoño, the mountain of God. And it's the only mountain, the only volcano active today that produces soda low temperature magma flows, which flow down and make heavy salts, which, petrify things. In this area here, before it becomes the river going down the Great East African Rift.
And it's still active to this day?
Yeah, in fact, it almost had an eruption here 2 weeks ago. Oldoño, Oldoy, Ino, Oldoño, and this was a bit of a difficult climb for me, as I say. But anyway, we could drive part of the way up from our hotel up this way, past a volcano here on the left, and then about right here, we had to go on foot. And for an old guy, it was tough. But anyway, it was really worth the journey um, to see where the waters came up, flowed down here to water the garden, and out here down to split the continents apart, the four great rivers that came out of Eden. And at an altitude of about 10,000 feet, you can see that it has a head on it. And if it's heated by volcanic structures, it's warm, that it would chew its way through
Yep.
land masses as it
Everything.
went down. Yeah. So, and now I want to show you more of that. Let's see here. Let's see here.
This is amazing. This is like walking through everything I've ever read in scripture. I mean, this is amazing.
I agree with you. At the time we were discovering all this, I tell you what, I was just the hairs on the back of our neck just stood out all the time. I would find a new clue and prove it. Now here is Ingatati Hill. Now it's a raised area here. I don't know if I've got the height of it, but it's not too high. See around this rim here, these little
Uh-huh.
dark things? Those are fig trees growing out of the side of Ingatati Hill, where the two trees were, I'm positive. This is in the midst of the garden, just like the Hebrew says. And the okay, and I will show you a contour of that here. Let me just throw that in as well. Okay. And this is showing where the trees were actually located on a higher ground, but where the water flow came down here. The stream came down. It came up in the middle here and watered the trees and came down. Now, we were taken on that trip by Jared and Christina Gretsch, who funded it all. Thank goodness for that. And this here is Christina here. And that's himself, May over there with our guide. But actually, this is a what do you call him? He's an armed guard for us. This is Christina. We're up on the top of Ingatati Hill. And right over here, you can just barely see it over on this corner here. Little green rise is the other tree, the second tree over there, and the first tree here's where she's standing. The conservancy there in Africa have wired off this area with a fence. You can't see it here because they're studying the dirt and the growth in that area. The soil is so fertile that they're studying to see how they can make the same kind of soil elsewhere, because it just grows wonderfully where that tree was over there in that side. And they're doing a formal study of the ground and everything now then to get an answer to that. Let me just move some of these out of the way here. Okay. All right. And let me see if I can find Jared. They were her husband here. We were doing this all together. Well, this would be a good shot here. This tells the story. We were coming in the early morning hours. We went into the Garden of Eden on the 27th of May, 2018. 2018, not 2016. Okay. Anyway, here's our guard. Here's our guide. Here's me. Here's Christina and Jared. And it was early in the morning, and there was still some, dew or clouds, fog over there. And we're looking back out through the Garden of Eden here. It's filled with African daisies, just beautiful. And we were the only people in the garden. We had the entire Garden of Eden, 100 square miles to ourselves that morning. which was, not planned. It just happened that way. It was really great. And here are some of the flowers that we saw there. You can see these here. They're beautiful flowers.
Mm-hmm.
The daisies and the purples. There's all kinds of flowers and animals. Oh wow, all kinds of animals. We had elephants, zebras,
Really?
baboons, lions, wildebeests, warthogs. I mean, we just had animals out the wazoo there. And strangely enough, the lions would lie down outside the herd of the gazelles and stuff, and nobody was panicking because the lions would only take the weak or elderly, to eat. And so they would lay on their back and scratch their back in the midst of the gazelles and stuff. Nobody was upset. Just an incredible thing. Now,
Wow.
look at this picture sidewise of the Ingatati Hill. See the fig trees growing
Fig
out of the
trees.
side?
Yep.
It
Yep.
just, I mean, you have to have the hair on the back of your neck standing up. If it's not, you're not
Wow.
paying attention. It's fascinating here. Let's see here. Okay, here's another thing. Here's some of the animals that we saw that morning down the slopes. Pair of elephants out having a morning, chew on the daisies or whatever, in 100 square miles of garden. Just incredible. Just incredible. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah. Trying to follow. Here's another shot of them when they moved over toward the lake at the bottom end that morning. Isn't that beautiful?
That's gorgeous.
2,000-foot ring, garden wall around them. Just beautiful. I mean, we stood on the top of that hill and just, I guess we just were quiet and thinking, wow, what a cool thing this is that we're standing in this place.
So this is their closed ecosystem. That ring creates this closed ecosystem for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is. It's just
That's
wonderful.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see what we've got here. That one there. Yeah, okay. This other one here is Jared, Christina's husband. He was filming most of this here with a Sony camera. And there we were on the top of this. There was a point in time when we were standing here, all of us, and we realized that we're there. This is where it all started with Adam and Eve. And everybody, the guide, everybody, we all just stopped. And there was a moment where it was just a stillness that we felt, a wonder at this place and this time. It's hard to explain, but it was like that. I mean, it just, yeah. All right, let me see if I can find this. Yeah, I want to
And
show
so
you.
people like UNESCO and all these people, they know that this is what this is then, right?
Oh, yeah. The Prime Minister of Japan has visited. The Clinton family, President Clinton and his family have visited it. It's yeah. The people in the know. I mean, heads of state have been there. I think even Prince Charles and his father came to visit the Garden of Eden. So they know, but it's just not being publicly made known to the rest of us. I found out that these the wealthy heads of state and stuff come and they stay on the edge where we stayed at the Sopa Lodge. But the Sopa Lodge was charging during the season like nearly $1,000 a night to stay there. So it had to be for the wealthy to see at the side like that. But if you stayed down below in the plains in a hotel in the city there, probably 15 miles away, you could afford it. But because we were going to film in the wet season and we're going to make a documentary about it, they gave it to us at a real reasonable rate that we could afford. Let me just see here. I'll show you a bit about the lodge here. Yeah, it's a beautiful place to stay. The staff were absolutely wonderful. This is the common area where we ate, and this is the like the day room where you could talk and whatever. And this next picture is the sign out the front so that you can reference this later if you want to in the video. This is Ngorongoro Sopa Lodge, altitude 1,700 feet. There's a location in coordinates, 3 degrees, 105, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, in the Eastern Rim. Now, this is where, the rich and famous come. There's another one that they go to, which is a camp out type thing, glamping type thing, but really quite nice. This whole place is quite nice. Okay, let me just see. Oh yeah. This is what the bungalows look like that we stayed in here.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, imagine coming out in the morning. You come out here and all these flowers and wonderful spring, like morning. It was just beautiful, just wonderful. Um, I do even have probably. Oh, yeah, this is what you want to see too. Is the inside of the lodge. Here, I guess that would be the best. I took a couple of phone videos and stuff as I came out one morning, but just before we went down to explore the garden. This is a really nice place. I mean, the meals here are like 5-star meals. Wine and service and waiters, and you just couldn't believe this is where the Garden of Eden is. But it's a wonderful way for us to get in there as a base camp and then go exploring all over the area. This is what greets you when you come into the thing in the
Yeah,
morning.
that's gorgeous.
Oh,
That's
just
beautiful.
it is. It is. And I can't stress enough how kind and helpful the staff were. They even packed lunches for us when we were going out on day outings out to various places, and great lunches and great service there. So anyway, that's my commercial for the Sopa Lodge. They just really were nice. Um, Now I want to show you some of the animals there that we saw. This is just in the garden part. There's a number of things I want to show you. Here's the lions. Yeah, and there's the wildebeest herd over there. The lion's just having to lie out there in the sun, Easy does it. And
Wow.
yeah, let's see. We've seen that here. We've got that there. Okay, okay. There's some videos. Maybe it's in that. Let's look at the videos. One of the neat things that happened. Let's see. Now, I don't think I can play that there. I have to play it in this one here. I'm going to have to stop the screen share and go to another one. Our guide was, I was riding up front with him, and he presented me with his Bible. He speaks German, Swahili, English, and Spanish, I think. And this was his Bible in Swahili. And we, oh, yeah, you can't see it yet till I do it. Okay, sorry. Dear. It's too easy to get lost, isn't it? Okay. And this was his.
All right, give me a second. I gotta hit it. All right, here we go.
Okay, can you hear sound on that side? Can you hear that?
No, I'm hearing it through your microphone, but not through.
That's all right. Don't need to anyway. But what happened was, I'm still in email contact with this particular fellow here, and we were talking about Genesis and the Garden of Eden, and he was learning like we're learning here together, and it was just a beautiful time. But behind me, to the left and right, are Jared and Christina, and one of the guards I think that we had. Anyway, I'll just zip along here. I think you can see some of the Swahili right there. Bibles in Swahili. I mean, Bible printing in different languages was very effective, very effective.
Wow.
And now here, let's see. I want to show you. Oh, yeah. The night that we arrived, the Swahili gave me a warrior's robe here for the Swahili. Isn't that cool?
Let me see. You might have to add it because we're still seeing a video.
Yeah. Do you see the video with the red cloak on it?
No, only I see on the video is the Bible still on the screen.
Okay. What did I do to deserve this here? He said. Okay, this is as
There
we
we go.
just landed at the airport there at Kilimanjaro, and they met us with robes. Mine was a warrior's robe for the Maasai.
Wow.
And then, there he is himself. We had a purple one for Christina. Let's see if we show her here. Slightly. There it is, a purple robe for her, for the lady. All right. And now then, which one here? I wanted to show you Adam's Drive. Oh, right.
So the Maasai go there all the time, but their faith is not Christianity, though, right?
Some
They're
are.
really
They're a mixture between that and animist, where they,
ancestor worship.
yeah, that kind of stuff. But it's
Okay.
fairly divided evenly. But I stayed in contact with a number of the Maasai, mainly the warriors, and one time. Let me see. Am I still alive? Yeah. Okay. One time when we were at the top of the Ngorongoro Plateau where the water was coming out, an old Maasai woman came out wrapped in her cloak, and she wanted to see what we were doing. So she came close and sat on a rock and listened to us. And we said to her, "What do you call this area here?" And she says, "Komanana." And I said, "Well, what's that mean?" And she says, "Like beautiful earrings, precious." And so we thought, thanks her for that. And we kept talking. And all of a sudden, we heard a cell phone ringing. And it was her cell phone. She wouldn't get under her. You're 10,000 feet in the air in Africa somewhere, and here's a cell phone ringing. And so I'm thinking, oh, okay. Oh, dear. It was good. We learned so much from them. This is the morning we left to go down in to explore the crater, the Garden of Eden. This is coming out of the lodge here, out of Sopa. Christine and I are leaving here.
Man, this had to be exciting. I mean, this really had to be exciting.
Oh, look, James, every time I go through this stuff, I get excited all over again. I was trying to find one here. I've got a picture of Adam's driveway, I think, somewhere here. Let me see if this is it here. No. Can you see that with the burrows?
Yes.
Okay, well, we were up at the top making plans for where we would go down into the area where the water came from, the Great Spring. See how the fog is on the land and stuff? It was just, you can hear, actually, I don't know where they're sharing the way I did. Works just a second here. You want to be able to share.
You should get an option that says share audio as well when you go to share.
That's right here. I'm just trying
click a box
to share audio. Share.
No, and you called this Adam's driveway is what you called it?
No, that's in another one. I'll show you in a minute here. Let me just close that one there. This is, yeah. Or is that sharing a look down a hill at some water and stuff?
Yep.
Okay, this is maybe this 400 feet down here was really tough because it's got grooves cut in by the various sheep and goats and things that have come down here and cut grooves in amongst the weeds. So it's really tricky footing. Anyway, my friend here, the guide, carried my knapsack for me because I was just getting too tired. But the area you see here in the top of the screen is that 20-acre area I'm talking about, where it's still upwelling water from Lake Victoria this day even. But
yeah,
that's
you
where
can see it
gush up. And let's see where.
Man, that is so beautiful. Look how they walk it down there with no problem. That must be, is that the people you went with, or that's some Maasai right there?
Oh, the Maasai are down at the bottom, and people I went with are with me here.
Yeah, they look like they have no problem trudging through there at all.
I don't know whether that comes through the mic or not, with the wind blowing and everything, but I'm trying, but I just can't.
No, it's okay. People get in the video, they can see how beautiful this is. I mean, look how gorgeous it is, man. It looks lush and it looks like unlike, and I know it's gonna sound crazy, but it looks like unlike anything I've seen anywhere. And you turn on like National Geographic, you're like, oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah.
But this is just different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a cradle here. See that cradle where the water all came out? And to this day, the Maasai live up over that ridge down the side of the slope of that one. And they bring their cattle in here. We were there later in the afternoon, and we saw the cattle herds, wandering around here where the arrow is on that side. And it's just a very pastoral type thing with the people sharing that here. Let me just stop that here for a second here.
And they were welcoming. You didn't have any problem. Everybody was nice. No issues with the Maasai at all. Because I know they're supposed to be. They can be a vicious warrior tribe, can't they?
Well, I suppose, but they didn't. We didn't run into that. The Datoga, who lived there the longest, they were living outside of the Ngoro now, down closer to the city areas. But yeah, they stayed there more than the Maasai did. The Maasai kicked the Datoga out 200 years ago in a you know a feud over the land and stuff. But okay, right.
Yeah, he's way up there.
Now the men were gathered over on this side, and the women were gathered over on their side, and then this ritual dance, for showing how strong and fit they are for the females. This was the jumping routine. Here's another guy doing his jump.
Yeah, I've seen him do this. It's like they float, like Michael Jordan wish he was a Maasai.
Yeah. Okay, I found a still, not the video, but a still of Adam and Eve's driveway. See that red earth that they were made from? There it is.
Yes. Yep.
You just go down, curve around through these acacia trees, and down into the Ngoro Plateau, or into the Garden of Eden itself. Inside the garden, we also had a shot of the lion Pride that lived on this tree. And this one here is got a few flies on her, but she was there with her mate, who was down the limb from her a bit. I'll chat with you here. We, as I said, we found all these animals in there, and one of the animal herds that's there is the what do they call them? Oh gosh, they're like a cow, but not really. They're very ugly. What's the name of them? My mind is gone. Anyway, one of the males of the tribe was coming alongside of our vehicle, following us, and he was going, So what do? You stick your head out the window, and you say, back, and so it gets closer to the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the guide leans back and says to me, "You're actually answering a mating call."
So you might want to stop that, huh?
Yeah. So I did, and he went on his happy way. Oh, I'll tell you what, we learned a lot in that trip.
That's amazing.
It is. Now, I want to, while we're talking here, I want to, how do I share that? I've got to bring it in first, don't I? I know that. It was, the road was very bumpy, and we didn't have one of those pieces of equipment that
Stabilizes it.
Stabilize it. So I had to stabilize it post. Notice the acacia wood here. You got the driveway now?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Oh, that is beautiful. That had to be surreal going into that. How did that feel going in there?
I tell you what, it was just mystical. Nobody was speaking. They were just looking, and occasionally there'd be an exclamation about, wow, but know that Adam himself would have probably walked this road, or the Lord would have put him on that road getting up out of the garden. I'll show you a picture or a video of an elephant that we met at the end of this road, who was having his breakfast eating an acacia tree, a small one.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, this goes on for a bit, so I'll just show you here, going all the way down to the end, just before we.
Wow.
He's going to knock it over to eat it, and there's breakfast.
Wow.
And of course, he wanders over. I'll move it along a bit. Here he gets in there.
And he goes to work too.
Yeah, he's munching away. As they are a bit of a nuisance. Apparently, they're knocking down trees they shouldn't. So the Conservancy is kind of trying to, only let one or two of them live in the garden itself at a time, because they would eat too much of the trees otherwise.
I bet they would. So when we start talking about the area directly outside of the garden, when Adam and Eve were thrown out of the garden, like the area where we would have had the conflict between Cain and his brother, and then Cain going off to build cities, where's that in geographical area to what you've discovered? Have you had a chance to look into any of that?
Yeah, I have. What I need to do is pull up Google Earth Pro here, and then I will.
You better show.
Yeah, what I was.
And they can still get your the DVDs on your website, or have you made it all electronic where they can pay and then watch the
Well,
documentary on your
the
website?
DVDs, we've still got DVDs of Garden of Eden, but eventually they'll go to flash drives. We're getting away from that, going to flash drives because more people want it that way. Let me just see here. We want to look at, well, let's look at Aiden, see if we've got that there. Boy, Google Earth, what a magnificent tool.
It is.
Now, okay, what we see here was Garden of Eden, and out the four rivers came. One of them came and went around Madagascar, and the other three went down and formed the Great East African Rift down here.
Okay.
Now, the migration pattern, which even the people studying the mitochondrial DNA of humans say all of the mitochondrial DNA of humans comes from this area right here.
Okay.
Everything came from there. There's that biological proof that we all origin here. The Adamic man versus the Homo erectus and those kind of things that you see, the ape men, that kind of stuff. They're different. This is Adamic man, which had the breath of God in him and communicated directly with God. But anyway, they migrated down this way to the Danakil Plains and across over into what is Yemen today.
Okay.
And up from there, they spread out through this whole Saudi Peninsula. This used to be all water through here. It was an island, in essence, a continent.
Okay.
And this is where the fallen ones, under Poseidon, the fallen angel, where they built their community, and that was called Atlantis by the Greeks. And I was able to follow the clues of how they crossbred humans that were Adamic humans with all kinds of DNA, and that's how we got like where we hear the pillars of Hercules and stuff, where the Greeks built the coupleless cities to honor their gods, their demigods. All of that occurred here, and that's where the giants were produced on this part of Atlantis. I won't go into this in great detail at the moment, but I've got to tell you, Plato's documents talk about up in the forested areas of Atlantis, there were grooves cut that went all the way. See these grooves?
Yeah, but I can see grooves. Look like a giant fingerprint, but yeah, I see the
Yeah,
grooves.
and they come down here, and they supplied water to an area here called the Fertile Plain, and it was 2,000 by 3,000 stadia, and I forget what that is in feet, but it was an area a bit like that. And they, in fact, let me just see if I've got that plane here. Maybe we can see that here. Yeah, it was somewhere like this yellow area here was the Fertile Plain spoken of. And another interesting thing about it is that right next to that, now filled in with the sands that came after Atlantis was flooded by the asteroid impact that shifted the north end of Saudi Arabia up 1,650 feet. This is where the capital of Damam, or Poseidon's castle, was. And here you can actually see this in 3D. I think I've got 3D on there. This is right next to where Aramco found all of its oil and stuff. This is a dome of sand, and we think the Temple of Poseidon is buried underneath there at about 16 to 20 feet deep in sand. So we proved all of Plato's
Wow.
distances, and the straight line that went to the three seaports here. This was, where Atlantis was, and the capital of it here. I'm just trying to think, where did I put it?
So wait. Let me make sure I got this on. So we're saying the landmass was Atlantis before all this happened. Are we saying Atlantis was?
Here's Atlantis. All this area here was Atlantis, all of it, and the wooded area, the forest, they were here in this area. Let me see if I've got forest. I think something like that.
So there's Mount Hermon where the fallen angels landed, supposedly where they landed. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. This is Damascus. So Hermon is in here. This mountain. I don't know if I've called it that, but here's Damascus. So Mount Hermon is there, right there.
Okay.
And yeah, Damascus. That's another interesting story. But anyway, for there's so much to talk about. But anyway, you can just see where the water used to surround this
Flow.
area.
Yep. You can see it.
And let me just fossilize trees here, here, and here. Today, they have found um, fossilized forests. I'm going to tell you something about that in a moment. Here's one, a fossilized forest here in this area, and this town sells the fossilized wood to tourists and things like that. There was fossilized woods here, a huge forest up here, and that's where they put the logs in to float down these channels they cut to bring the wood down here to build ships and things like that. The Yeah, right, okay, yeah. Um, there are just so many things here. I'm trying to not forget anything. Um, let's see. There's that. And there's that. Uh, I've done so many things here to to prove what uh, Plato said about his location of things. I'm going to show you here. I think this is the one. Is this the one? No, that's not. Let me have it. Let's try. Um,
But you know the craziest thing, everybody believes Atlantis is somewhere under the water right now.
yeah. No, it's not. And the thing is, um, everybody that's been studying Plato, and they call the Pillars of Hercules the Gibraltar. You know,
Hmm.
okay, but that was because that was what they thought was west of Greece.
Hmm.
But two times during recorded history in China and in Egypt, the Earth's crust was shifted 150 degrees so the sun rose in the west. So if you reverse that, then you go to the east of what today is the east, but it was the west
Right.
then, and that's how you find Atlantis because they're all looking out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But
Right.
once you correct that, everything falls into place.
Wow.
It's just you have to put so many things together to do this. Okay, now I've got that there. Share. Oh, yeah, this one here is a good one too. Okay,
All right.
all right. Now, while I was researching to try to find the island, the capital island, I knew it had to be a raised island off the coast of, Atlantis back then. What you see now is I've put the water level where it would have been before Atlantis was destroyed by the impact of a asteroid out in this area here in the Indian Ocean, which caused this end of Saudi Arabia to descend, this end to rise up 1,650 feet, which you can see by the watermarks on these mountains here. So I realized that this area here had been photographed by an astronaut. So I contacted that astronaut and asked him about this one particular thing right here, which can be seen from orbit. And it is a dome, just like they describe in Plato's account of where Poseidon built his temple.
Okay.
And there it is. You can see it's off the shore, about the right distance, according to Plato. And Plato said, it's the distance in these things is like you measure the coastline of Libya and Asia Minor, and in between these two, in extent, is Atlantis. And if you measure the coastline of this
Hmm.
to the coastline of ancient Libya over here and to Asia Minor up here, they're within cooey of each other, very close distance, exactly as he forecast. So anyway, I thank the astronaut for this image here, and then I zoomed it up a bit more and 3D with 3D glasses. You can see this. It's
Oh, you can
really
see that's a dome for sure.
it is. It is. Now, according to Plato's account, the uh, Poseidon was a god, a god, according to them, and and he was able to bring up hot and cold water to his castle or his palace. Now, this is the Damam Dome that we just saw in that 3D image,
Hmm.
and it comes up above the sea here. It's called Damam today. Now, it has two major sources of water comes up underneath it, and it said Poseidon was able, being a god, to get hot water and cold water up into his palace. this is the only place in the whole Middle East that you can even see anything like this. This is it. It's just another one of the things that proves that I found ancient Atlantis as described to Plato by Solon, who had it told him by the priests of Sais in Egypt. The Demam,
Wow.
yeah. Okay, so there's that. Now, the asteroid that caused the great breakup of Pangaea and caused the great flood occurred here in the Indian Ocean. You can see the tip of India today, but it used to stretch all the way down here. And the asteroid hit right in this area. And this is a mass, like a gravitational map of the Earth. And this shows a real deep impact into the surface and a great rise in the surface over here. And an asteroid came in at an angle of about 34 degrees, hit here,
And then pushed out.
pushed out and pushed over through Indonesia, kicked Australia down to where it is, and caused a bulge under these islands here, New Guinea. Okay, and we'll just get rid of that now, and we don't need this 3D image anymore. Okay, we're good there. We're good there. Okay, don't think we need that. Okay, and this is just a flat image showing that this depth over here where it hit was 280 feet deep, and over here where it raised it up under New Guinea was 350 feet push up. So it shoved us over here. There was another area over here which was probably connected to the Chicxulub impact here in the Gulf of Mexico, deep area here, and a raised area here in off the English coast here, south of Iceland. So the only two areas, and this one is the major one. This one caused this asteroid impact was so fierce. It was like 15 miles in diameter. It boiled the seawater up. And remember, before the time of the flood, there was only the water that watered the plants came up as dew at night into the early morning. There was never rain clouds. But this asteroid impact burned up and boiled up so much of the seabed from not only the sea, but from down underneath in the crust of the earth in the Moho discontinuity, it's called 15 miles down. It boiled that up. And it was hot water coming up from the broken depths. And it boiled up these clouds, which became rain clouds. And so they had rain for the first time and a rainbow, of course, at the end of the trip of Noah. All this was caused by this impact of this large asteroid. And it, as I say, it moved all this area over here. Australia used to be, you can see the tip of it used to be where this line is right here.
Oh, it's clear. You can see it. You can definitely see it. It's clear. Wow.
And there was also people said, okay, well, what about Lemuria? Where's Lemuria? If you found Atlantis, where's Lemuria? Well, in the 19th century, there was a scientist saying, I want to find out where the lemurs, how they got to over here in Asia, because the lemurs' home island is Madagascar.
Right.
And so he called the missing continent Lemuria. And it was all these islands here that were connected over here to Madagascar. You can see where the connecting lines were, where they all joined. So that's where Lemuria, the legend of that came from. It was from the countries that were there before the impact of that asteroid. Fascinating stuff. I mean, you can see, looking at these mud maps, you can see how everything was shoved over.
It literally looks like somebody did this and just pushed it over.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing stuff anyway. Yeah. Let's stop that for a second here. Yeah, so many things I'm trying to tell you once. It's just
no, I mean, I think you're doing a great job. I think you're doing a fantastic job. So we've established where where Adam and Eve left the garden, where they ended up migrating to, where humanity flourished from, and then they encounter the fallen ones, and then we found out where the genetic modification took place. We found where Poseidon's dome was. That's dude, for any interview where you're talking about the validity of the Bible, you've already superseded everything that someone can expect in a conversation like this. I just wish people had this and knew this.
Well, that's the purpose of this, trying to share it with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, this is wild.
Now, about your giants. I talked to some scholarly rabbis,
Hmm.
one from New York who was over in Perth at the time in Australia, and I asked him about the giants. I said, "How did Og, the king of Bashan, obviously a giant, how
Right.
did he survive the flood?" Well, he says, we think that he actually grabbed onto Noah's ark, onto the cabin, and Noah fed him through that year, through that hole in the window. And I said, "You don't really believe that?" He said, "Well, that's the official look at it." So I looked at this on Google Earth, and the giants were in Canaan here, and that's why Joshua had to come in and kill certain tribes that had, you know, polluted DNA, from
Right.
the crossbreeding. That's why we had giants. That's why we had Goliath and his brothers. That's why we had Og, the king of Bashan, over
Hmm.
here in this area where all
Wait.
Damascus.
Make sure you might be trying to share something and I'm missing it. Hold on. I'm messing up. There we go.
Oh,
Okay. That's all right. Go ahead.
oh, can you see it
All right.
now? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. That's my fault. That's not you. That's me. Okay.
Okay.
Where's show the areas again?
Okay. Well, the area where the giants were in Canaan were here, where Joshua had to come in and kill all the livestock, all the people, everything in those villages because they had corrupt DNA. Now,
Right.
this tells you right there that there were survivors of the flood. It,
Yeah.
the flood in Hebrew, the area that was damaged by the flood was called haaretz, and eretz can mean locale, region, country, and so the tidal waves that swept across the planet several times from the impact washed all away almost everyone, but there were some of the fallen ones and their crossbreeds that lived through that, and they were in this area here. This is where the legend of Hercules was. He was born in these mountains between the Lebanon and anti-Lebanon mountains here,
Hmm.
and the giants, the king of Og, Og, the king of Bashan, was here. Here's Galilee, and here's Galilee, and here's Bashan here. Now, Bashan has been covered over by at least 13 large volcanoes. And to give you an idea, Damascus is here, and this area here had over 100 volcanic fumaroles, and these black ash areas in here are upwellings of magma to this day that covered all of the land of Bashan, where the giants were. So that plus another couple of things about where the 10 sons of Poseidon, there were 5 pairs of twins, where they put their homes instead of down here on Poseidon Island. They put their homes over here in the wooded area, the nice highlands, and there's even one city today that has survived carrying. Oh, Decapolis. Let me put that to. Uh, Let me just find this list them for you. Okay, now what you're going to see here, the green pins are the Decapolis cities that the Greeks built over here, and with the Roman help later. They built these cities in honor of their gods, little g ods,
Okay.
and one of them was Gadara, right here.
Hmm.
And one of the kings, 10 kings of Poseidon that moved over that area, was Gadarius. And that was his city right there. It's an ancient city that's still there. And that was the city that one of Poseidon's son actually formed. Now, people look at the Decapolis cities, the term Decapolis, saying 10 cities. Well, it's not plural. Uh, what they call Decapolis cities is a Decapolis city. In other words, the sons of Poseidon built a city, and that was a Decapolis city of the 10. So they built several of these cities, and they're not just 10, there's maybe 14 or 15 of them they're now discovering. All this area was populated by the sons of Poseidon. Um, and anyway, that's that area there. All of these
Now let
mysteries.
me just something's hitting me. When Jesus crossed the sea and he cast out the demon from the man, the demon of Gadarenes, didn't that man go to preach to
Go
one of those
go to where?
cities? If I'm not mistaken, didn't he go to one of those cities to preach and talk about Jesus? If I'm not mistaken.
I
Um,
don't know. I'll have to defer to you, and I'm not.
yeah, but I remember reading somewhere it was like he went to the Decapolis and spread the word about Jesus, if I'm
Well,
not mistaken.
well, he might have gone to Hippos. This is a Decapolis city right there near
Yeah,
the.
that makes sense.
It does. And of
It
course, there's
makes all
another
the
one
sense.
down here, Gadara, but these two are very close. Yeah, all of these actually. But yeah,
Wow.
isn't it amazing to see these things? You know, in the scripture where it says in the end times that Damascus, it was night and then it was day, and Damascus was no more. It would become a ruinous heap.
Right.
You know what they call these things? These upwellings, these volcanic eruptions in that area?
Probably ruinous heaps.
Ruinous heaps. Now,
Yep.
if you see this line here of where there have been ruinous heap eruptions, here's
Uh-huh.
Damascus over here.
Uh-huh.
It was a Decapolis city. Now, I look at it this way. Iran has been using Damascus as a dropping ground for its missiles and stuff. It has at least 10 bases that we know of there. And the Israelis could quite possibly nuke that area to get rid of all of the nuclear weapons that Iran has put into here.
Hmm.
Or an act of God could make this a ruinous heap by an eruption, you know. And if you look in the area of Damascus, there are some dark signs of, previous magma eruptions and stuff in the area. So one way or the other, either by an act of God or by Israel's nuking Damascus, we're going to see a problem in the Middle East. Now, even if it is an act of God, I think that Israel will be blamed for it, and this will be the thing that will almost trigger nuclear war, and why the peace treaty between Israel and the surrounding Arab nations must be signed. And right now, that is being organized by Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, Prince of Saudi Arabia. As Daniel says, the Prince of the Covenant, the Prince who signs the covenant between Israel and the many nations, will be an Antichrist or the Antichrist of this age. Now, uh, Mohammed bin Salman and President Trump's son in law, Jared Kushner, are in business together, sharing billions of dollars in a development fund to develop the surrounding Arab nations, about 40 of them, and solve their problems with business plans. Now, they are saying that they want to have this peace treaty with Israel, but Israel must first allow a division of the land, and they have a two-state solution to Israel so that the Gazans can either be in the West Bank or in the Gaza Strip, and at the same time that Israel occupies the rest of the land, which is a no-no in the Bible. You don't divide the Holy Land.
Right.
And but that's where they're pushing it now. Jared Kushner gave a long dissertation, which I had on video, and still got it somewhere, where he said, "Well, Mohammed bin Salman and I are setting up these business plans for the Arab nations that want to join the Abraham Accords. We will solve their problems in a business plan where if they need more trade or if they need to settle a problem with dissidents or whatever, we'll make a business plan for each of these countries. And if they'll join the Abraham Accords, we'll execute this business plan and to help them." And so they're hanging this carrot out to the various Arab nations to do that. Um, the Saudis are they don't like Israel, and so they're pushing for this solution of the Gaza Strip problem. Jared Kushner said that what they're going to do is stop the fighting eventually here in Gaza very shortly, and they will develop the Gaza Strip into that wonderful seashore
Resort area.
resort area like Trump was talking about, and that they will do that starting, billions of dollars will be poured in by the nations around the planet to develop this area and bring peace to the Middle East. Now, at some point in time, I suspect that Saudi Arabia will um, uh, attack Israel. Uh, Prince Mohammed bin Salman has 40 nations in a joint operation. They're calling it anti-terrorism.
Hmm.
And when you look at their definition of terrorism, it's not our definition of terrorism. It's any actor or country or whatever that is acting against Islam, which
Right.
is America and the large
Israel.
state and Israel. So they have set this thing up. They've got a general in charge of it, and they've got weapons. They've got soldiers. They've got everything except nuclear weapons, which are available in Pakistan, I think, at the moment through the Saudis. So that is all in place. We're seeing the prophecies lining up, for all to happen at this point in time.
That's a good thing for you to point out, because I'm so sick and tired of everybody saying Elon Musk is the Antichrist, Donald Trump is. I'm like, they don't meet the criteria, man. None of them meet the criteria. Do you mind just laying out the criteria for what and who is supposed to be the Antichrist, not someone who comes along that has the Antichrist spirit, but the Antichrist? Because it gets on my nerves. I'm sitting there like, no, dude, that don't meet the criteria. None of that means they crazy, man.
I know. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my Antichrist page with you guys here. Let's see, I have to pull this across here. Okay.
I think I might be able to share that one for you. Hold on, let me see. Well, I'm gonna let you share it because you're gonna know where you want to go. Hold on.
How about there? Can you get that page now?
Oh, I can get it. There we go.
Okay. Now, this page here is my show images page, which you get to by going to standeyo.com and clicking on show images in the top right hand corner. And I put news in here, but always here I have slide 13. Who is the Antichrist? The Assyrian Solomon of our time. Now, I went to the book of Revelation, and I was looking at Revelation 13:18. It says, "Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666." Now, the Bible has scripture in it to help decode the coded messages in Revelation. Where do you see 666 in the entire Old Testament? It's in the amount of tribute that King Solomon, a very wise man, received every year from the tributary states. So here is wisdom, King Solomon. Does that mean that the Antichrist of this age will have a name similar to Solomon? So when you go back and you look in the Arab names, they call Solomon Salman. Oh, goodness gracious, Prince bin Salman. He's got a name that would fit this scripture. He's a wealthy, powerful individual. And so I looked at this and I set up this page talking about each of the guys involved in this. And I used to have the Pope in there. He's now deceased, so I took him out. I used to have General Soleimani of Iran. He's now dead.
Yeah, he got blown up.
Yeah. Now, if he were to come back, a clone or whatever, that might be interesting. But
We got a problem
anyway,
on our hands. If he come back, we
we
got a
do.
problem on our hands for real.
We do. So I think at the moment, I think Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Jared Kushner.
I don't like that dude. Something weird about that guy. I'm sorry.
Well, his family name is Berkowitz, not Kushner. They changed that. Kushner actually is like a furrier. I traced them back to Iraq, and I traced him to the edge of the desert. He could be from the tribe of Dan that went across the desert over into Iraq. Not
Wow.
sure. And there's a guy that wrote a book about the bin Salman family. He was in prison. His book is banned in Saudi Arabia, but the book said that an Israeli merchant came through Basra and became one of the progenitors of the Salman family. So in essence, and he was the tribe of Dan, that the royal throne of Saudi Arabia has roots in Israel in the tribe of Dan, which they didn't want to, so they either killed or imprisoned him for life and took his book off the market because of that. So I know that Prince bin Salman, you have to keep looking in the news about him because he does things like, putting billions of dollars into a development fund with Jared Kushner. The two of them are thick as thieves. And he's a prince now, bin Salman, but also the American press, the popular magazines and stuff in the New England states call Jared Kushner a prince. They called him and Saudi Arabia's Prince bin Salman as the princelings. So one of the two of them might be the prince spoken of that signs that treaty. Both of them could sign that treaty with many nations. Now,
let me ask you a quick question before you. What's the significance of the tribe of Dan and how it plays into both of them being probably from that tribe?
the young whelp from the tribe of Dan will leap forward, and they're talking about the Antichrist at this time.
Okay, gotcha. All right, gotcha.
Now Mohammed bin Salman is a prince right now. His
Yes.
father, King Salman, is ill in the hospital, approaching death. If he is to be the prince of the covenant, he must still be a prince when it happens. They're moving
Right.
for that right now, and his dad is old and very ill. So if he dies, then Prince bin Salman then becomes King bin Salman, not the guy that we would expect.
Right. And he
Now,
falls off the board.
that's right. And with Kushner, I don't know whether that even plays into him. The media does call him Prince of, Kushner, but again, these two, Kushner and bin Salman, to me could be Antichrist and false prophet, or the other way around. One of the other kind of players in this game is Bashar al-Assad. Now, he's been deposed in Syria, but
Right.
he's under the care of the Russians at the moment, and he could very well be returned to power by the Russians with current covenants in play. And underneath each of these pictures, I have things about them that might make them like fierce continents. Okay, that doesn't look fierce over there, but um, Erdogan of Turkey, he looks fierce. So
Hmm.
I put all these clues in there, and things that you need to look for to identify an Antichrist of the time. Um, One of the strange things that I saw in a document that is not biblical was in Nostradamus. Nostradamus, see if I can find it here. Okay, down here where I am now. Um, Mohammed bin Salman is called MBS by his initials, uh, as opposed to his cousin MBN, Mohammed bin Nayef. So MBS is what they call this guy. And Nostradamus said the Antichrist of this age will be called Mabus, Mabus. Now look at that, MBS, and an Arabic Union of 34 countries at the time, that would be Arabic Union. That's Mabus. He may have identified the Antichrist as the one we pick
Wow.
as well. Again, that's not a biblical source, but an interesting source. And this is on my show images page. And as I get new information, I put it in there. Um, President Erdogan of Turkey, where that statue, the seat of Satan or whatever is in Turkey,
Hmm.
he has a guy coming up behind him, this interior minister, Suleiman,
Hmm.
and that's the guy I'm watching there, as opposed to
To
Erdogan.
Erdogan.
So you see how it goes. As I get more information, I put it here, and um, I could be completely wrong, but Mohammed bin Salman, he has investments in blockchain companies. He has nearly $1 trillion worth of public investment funds at his disposal from Saudi Arabia. Uh, Huge amount of money, like a rich Solomon. And he's definitely clever, forming this alliance. And you know, it, he holds my attention the most. Is Prince bin Salman. That that might uh, that might happen some other way, but anyway, that's what I see there. Uh,
All right. We've been going almost 2 hours, and I don't know if you're getting tired because we can always do another show. I don't want to drain you. Um,
well,
and I would love to have you back on, but I don't like to hold people for two, three, two, three. I would selfishly hold you for 3 hours, but I don't
oh,
want to do that to you. And I'd rather if you want to come back and we talk about more. I want to get into anti-gravity, but I feel
oh well,
like
we can do that.
okay,
I'm
good
easy.
deal.
Let me just see here. Okay, let me just adjust this thing here. We'll stop screen share. And I've got to set this back up over here. Where is that StreamYard thing? Is that good here? Yeah, okay. I have to save my channel where I do my recordings each week there. Okay, and there's that. Okay. Uh, Anti-gravity. Okay. What do you want to know about anti-gravity?
Well, I mean, we just recently had all this kerfuffle about drones and which to me some of it looked like drones. To me, it something looked like some anti-gravity spaceships or something. It had to be U.S. stuff. And just talk to me a little bit about your research on anti-gravity and how you got into it and what kind of conclusions you've come to from your experience. Remember, I don't know much about your background
Okay.
um, at all, so treat me like I'm a newbie. I know you have extensive studies on it and you've had experience with it, but I don't know the extent.
Yeah, well, back in, let's see, was it the late 60, 69, 70, in Dallas when I was still there, I was working undercover for the FBI on international arm trades, arm deals. And at the same time, I was working on a thing, a coil in my lab at home. And that coil was built to mimic the flow of electrons from inside the planet spiraling around the equator and up and back into the poles.
Okay.
And so I built this with an air core, and which is not a strong core, but an air core. And I applied mm, a pulse DC frequency to it, running through a range of frequencies or low frequencies around 30 to 60 hertz.
Okay.
And I was in my lab, and when I hit the right frequency, it was as though uh, the room in front of me was on cellophane, and it was being sucked into the coil. What I was seeing, and I felt like I was rolling into the coil myself, and then it burnt out because I had improperly put the resistance into it, but it burnt out and stopped. And so I realized, okay, I'm on the path of anti-gravity, how to make an artificial gravity field. And I hadn't told anybody this, and where I was working in town, there was it was a large conglomerate of 100 companies, sorry. And one of the executives of one of those companies must have looked inside my office. I was in the top floor office, and I had a blackboard that I could flip upside down. And on the back side of it, when I wasn't doing work on computing, I was working on the equations for this. Anyway, he put me in touch with a guy named, oh, I've said this many times, I'm drawing a blank now, a doctor there in Dallas who was a friend of a number of people involved in this, Ed Teller and uh, people at NASA and things like that. And they said, look, come see us. And I went to see them in their office and see him. And I talk about this in the back of my book, The Cosmic Conspiracy. And I even have a copy of the letters from them. And they recruited me to join the anti-gravity research that Dr. Teller's group were doing down in Australia. Come to find out that there was Dr. Teller's group in the United States. There was another one in Russia under Dr. Andrei Sakharov, who was under house arrest by the Russians. There was somebody in Australia. There was somebody in New Zealand. All these were a consortium of people that were scientists, industrialists, and not politicians. They were above government. Anyway, so I went to work down there because of the work that I developed myself on anti-gravity. And I'm going to show you here a brief equation or a picture of how the circuit looks to build a basic anti-gravity circuit here. This is on my show images page. Just pull that up. Okay. All
So
right.
DARPA itself was founded 2 years before you got into this too. Okay, so that makes all the sense in the world as well.
All right. I didn't know that, but that's good. Okay. This right here in this A1 kind of a lesson plan I had for 10 lessons on anti-gravity. This one is the basic circuit that makes a 30-foot diameter anti-gravity craft.
Hmm.
And the thing is to take a signal generator, which is, between 1 and 3,000 cycles. You can adjust it for the size of the coil. And then I put a diode here so that only half of this wave comes through
Okay.
as a direct pulse. And it goes to both the cylindrical coil and the toroidal coil, and they're hooked up in this manner. And there's no ground to this circuit. So people say, well, where's the ground to this? This area here is the ground. It's its own ground because it rocks the back EMF as you pulse into this one, and then under the pulse, it goes over into this one. So they stack.
Okay.
They chase each other, and it's like layers of onion peeling back and forth, but it stacks small pulses and lots of them to build a big field that's spinning in the center here and overlapping the outer toroidal coil. And that makes a flying vortex of this huge amount of DC pulsed energy. The flying saucers work on pulsed DC, at least these kind. There are other kinds, but that's the basic part. Now, what happens is in the center of this is the crew area here, and this is the outer area for the propulsion. In the center of this, the this huge vortex is concentrating energy in the center of it,
Hmm.
and and less energy on the outer part. It's concentrating in the middle. And the reason I tell you that is because looking at this thing above of the one of the videos taken of a flying saucer off of the California coast, you can see here is a saucer outline, and there's a polarity to the vortex, top
Yep.
and bottom.
Top and bottom.
But notice this is an infrared thing where uh, the uh, the air is at one temperature, the craft is at another temperature, and the air around the craft is at another
It's another
temperature.
temperature. Yep.
Okay, now inside the craft, because the energy is compressed, it compresses the atoms of all of the crew, the equipment, everything, so that inside the craft, when it's operating at these speeds and densities, time passes faster inside there. So the crew might age, you know, 3 or 4 weeks in the space of a couple of minutes of our time or seconds.
Whoa. Whoa. Wow.
And there's been reports in the past in Brazil. There was Brazilian team of soldiers on an airbase there years ago, and they reported a light coming down in the paddocks outside the airfield. And so they, 3 or 4 of them went out with their sergeant in charge to find what that light was that landed in the paddocks. When they got out there, they split up and agreed to meet back in so many minutes. Well, all of them except the sergeant came back on time, and he was late, a few minutes late, but he came in from the brush, stumbling, and he had a 5-day growth of beard in the space of 20 minutes. He had aged 5 days, and what he had done is he'd gone into the field of a landed craft too far, and he was starting to accelerate time like people inside the craft did. And so this, included to me um, the here I measured the difference in the light energy outside the field compared to the ambient air. Ambient air was at 51%, but this one here is at 28%, and in the center it's less than 1% because of the limits of the grayscale. So it says here the UAP is at least 50 times hotter than the ambient air, and 0.55 times cooler than the ambient air, and at least 27 times cooler than the UAP. So all these things indicate of a dilation of time, one way or the other. When they go to turn a corner, the common reports say that they fly in zigzags. They don't go gradually in an arc. They go zip, 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 straight lines. And that's
Hmm.
because they have to charge up the field. And inside the craft, the crew is told, okay, we're going to make a turn, break out the cards and a cup of tea. It's going to take them hours to make that turn that you see in a fraction of a second. So it amortizes the G forces over much more time so that it doesn't break the craft or the crew. You see what I'm
The
saying?
crew. Yeah, that's what I'm saying because that's a lot of G-force. You think the crew would just.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's difference in the passage of time.
And
I,
that would explain why that would explain why that explains a lot. That explains why there are reports of them having genetically modified humans that fly these things because the average human that was in there for a significant amount of time would age out and die,
yeah.
or their bodies would have to be modified genetically and able to withstand being inside of those fields. That's
Yeah.
great. That's why I said, wow.
And let me
Yeah,
let me blow your mind with something else. You can build a room and have it not be a craft and build that field in a room. And so let's say you had a room in the Pentagon where you're under attack and you've got 30 minutes to make a decision that's very critical.
you slow down
Put your
time.
put your people, decision makers, in that room, turn on the field, so they're operating at greatly accelerated time in there to figure out what to do in the space of 30 minutes. They might spend 5 days in there planning their next move. And then I ask you, look at the last few presidents who've gone in and suddenly become gray.
Great. Yep.
Isn't
Yep.
that cool? Isn't that
Yep.
cool?
Yep. 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 And I'm gonna tell you, I can say this. People, this won't sound crazy to you. I'm 100% positive that a person who prays for long hours of time, especially people who pray in the spirit that like speak in tongues, you create your own field because I noticed when I started praying in tongues for hours, I just started graying, like just hair gray. I was like, why am I graying so much? But I wouldn't
Right.
stop because I think we ourselves can generate these fields. But that's a whole nother story. Let's get back to this. It makes sense that when somebody goes into the White House, remember Obama? He went to the White House, homeboy. Even though I don't like him, he had beautiful black hair. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Obama looked like he aged like that.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's part of it. Really, you touch on something here about heaven, the top level, and
Hmm.
then earth here, and then the lower level to home. In the top level where God is, imagine the energy density is so great that 1,000 years to him is different to our time here.
Yep.
He lives much longer. And when Ezekiel was on the river Chebar and he saw the burning chariot come down, what was happening is that the chariot was coming from God's universe, God's level of existence,
Hmm.
into ours and dissipating the excess energy to normalize to our time. And that's why it was flaming. It was throwing that energy off. And if you look at where Mary was in the garden after Jesus had been raised from the dead and was gone, she sees this guy there, a stranger in the garden. She says, "Where have you taken my master?" And she recognizes, well, that's Jesus. Runs to hug him. He says, "Wait, wait, don't touch
Don't
me.
touch me.
I've not yet ascended." He's energizing. He would hurt her body if he touched her while that was happening. Do you see?
Y'all trust me. I see exactly what you're saying. I see exactly what you're saying.
And then
This is wow.
ghosts, spirits that live on the lower level at lower energy densities to us, if they penetrate into our world in a room or someplace, it goes colder because they're sucking energy out because they're lower energy density. It all
Yep.
makes sense, doesn't it?
Yep. It all makes sense. Wow.
Yeah.
And when I tell you this makes sense, because I mean, I've experienced extreme spiritual warfare to the point to where I could like, ain't nothing, don't nothing come in this house. I pray too much. But in one place, man, I would be sitting in the room, be warm, and then the temperature would drop, and I'd be like, we're not playing this. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. You're gonna get up out of here. And you got 10 seconds, 1, 2, 3, and then boom, going into prayer. And it's amazing, man. It's absolutely, and
It
some of
all,
these things I suspected, but it's like it's absolutely amazing that that's what it boils down to. When the
yeah.
Bible, when it says that like a day is like 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord, it makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
100% sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And he's, at that at time density, I mean, he controls the slide carousel of all events in the universe, and he can
Right.
move slides forward and backward in time because he's out of time.
Right.
He's the projectionist.
Right.
Yeah, it just
Wow.
it all makes so much sense. Uh, yeah,
And I've been saying this. I've been saying science is catching up to God. People be like, oh, say no, they're catching up to God. What is wrong with y'all? They be like, oh, we've discovered this. No, catching up to what he already did. It's already there. It's just that humans were probably rediscovering a lot of it at this point in time since the Great Flood. But nonetheless, we're catching up to what he's already done. It's amazing, man. This has been
it,
great. When I
it
tell you, Stan, this is fantastic. This has been like this has been the best blessing that I had in a long time since I've been doing like interviews, man. This is awesome. I mean, it really is.
well,
Wow.
I'm certainly glad to do that. As I said, my whole purpose, I think the Lord has set me to explain these things and to prove these things. And I hope I've done that well. We'll see in time, I guess. But I want to go on with your education a little bit of gravity.
Sure.
If you look out in the stars at the galaxies, you
Hmm.
see spiraling things, right? Spiral
Yes.
galaxies with arms, and then they close down to a disc shape. And everything can be explained by motions in a fluid, the fluid of space.
Okay.
And when God spoke the word in the beginning to create all this, it was a huge push of energy into this still sea. And
Hmm.
these spirals were like smoke in a crowded bar room where you're blowing smoke rings and stuff. These things form subfields and subfields, and down to the level of planets, and then to atoms and subatomic particles. And you can see by a video I'm going to show you. I made it in my lab here
Wow.
to show how things
Satan, I
heavy.
rebuke you. Quit it, Satan. Get off our internet. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh, we're having a problem there.
No, go ahead. We good. We back.
Okay, let me see if I can find this here. I want to look at the. There we go. Okay. Now this is some water, and I put some white sand in the bottom
Hmm.
and some pepper grains here, which are lighter, less dense. And then I uh, stirred it up. Watch what happens.
Create a vortex that sorts it out. Hmm.
The sand forms first into the center. The lighter particles come after that. That's why we have heavy particles inside of a planet.
Wow.
Now, this fluid or vortexual motion is how you generate gravity, and that was important to let you see that, because Einstein and a lot of the other great physicists of our earlier times, last century or two, have been trying to figure out a way to solve the universe mathematically, and they've gone to 10-dimensional matrix algebra, equations and whatever to do that, to try to explain things. And they found that there was a problem with general relativity, and even specific, is that when you put a question to that mathematical model, sometimes
Hmm.
it could not answer it. It
Right.
wasn't complete. And I was shown by the good Lord the error in the Einstein assumptions for his relativities, both of them. And it was that mm, space existence is fluid motion. Is everything is a function of fluid motion. Everything, from the initial spoken word of God into the stillness of what is space. And by studying that, I've been able to, let me just see where we are here. Okay. I've been able to explain how Einstein made a mistake. It's a very simple one. Um, the, to solve the universe in a fluid method, you need to have a sea, an ether space. You need to have that. And
Hmm.
so Michelson and Morley, two experimenters, and Lawrence and Fitzgerald as well, before Einstein, tried to figure out a test to see if we're passing through space as we go around the sun.
Right.
Simple. Okay. So they said, okay, here on Earth, let's take a light beam and split it in half. One half goes as we travel around the sun in that direction, and the other half is at right angles, so that if there is a fluid that we're traveling through, the light going sideways will travel longer than the one going straight. And when the light beams come back together again, there will be an interference thing, because they were traveling at different rates or different distances through a
Okay.
medium. Try as they may, they couldn't get any difference. The light going this way and the light going that way came back at the same time. There was no space out there. Well, here was the basic assumption they made, that we were moving through space. If space was moving us, if it was swirling, then we would not detect any difference in our local area here on the Earth.
Right.
We we're not moving through space. The spin of space.
Space is moving us.
And when you correct that, then you see everything as a fluid,
Wow.
equation of some sort. And that was the basic error, a thing that the good Lord showed me in dream visions as well. But uh, yeah, that's I, I remarked that out of body experience I had, that near death with the Lord. I asked that simple question: how does all this work? And it took years for it to unfold. There was so much of a download of information that it took me just years of assimilating it. But that's what it was. Now, everything is spinning in the universe, but it's slowing down. The energy is spreading out, and we're going to go back to a static sea. At the end of the 1,000-year reign, the earth and the heavens as we know it will pass away in a fervent heat. And what happens when all these spins reach their end? They release infrared radiation throughout the whole universe as everything dissolves. Bang, gone.
Hmm.
And then a new heaven and a new earth comes. So the physics of it fits. As it unwinds, it releases the infrared energy, just like the Bible said. Fascinating stuff.
I mean, it is fascinating. Wow. This has been awesome because my audience is an audience that truly believes. It's just that everyone is bombarded with, I call it propaganda. I mean,
Yeah,
but it's different levels of propaganda and designed to like lead people astray. and nobody just lays it out hardcore. The most difficult things, like if you were talking to an atheist, this answers some of the most difficult questions an atheist would ever ask you. Well, why did the Lord create it this way? So you think we're floating through space and time, and how come time is this? It answers all those questions, all the way down to, oh, are aliens real? No, well, you see spaceships. That's humans who figured out what what the hell is going on. You know what I'm saying?
Wait,
It's
wait, wait,
crazy.
wait. That's an important point. I should cover that here.
That's
You
it.
remember the Lord said there's going to be a great deception toward the end of time here?
Yes.
Okay. The great deception is going to be a group of fallen ones posing as aliens, our elder brothers from space. They have the technology. They needed our industrial support because they were cast out of heaven into our dimension. So
Hmm.
they couldn't bring all their technology from the heavens with upper heaven with them. So they had to develop humanity to the point that mine the various minerals, make the various industrial equipment to make the craft and various technologies with it. And so that's why they helped us along, teaching us things so that we could make the stuff they need to make the equipment to fight Jesus in the last great war that's going to happen here, or battle. Now, the deception is we're seeing that these aliens, there are two classes of them: bad guys, reptilian, grays, whatever, and then Nordic, nice looking, handsome people. Good guys, bad guys. And so to deceive us, what they're going to do is the fallen ones who are, say, Nordic, are going to come and help us at a time of crisis when we're at the threat of nuclear war, say over Damascus, and we're saying, will someone help us? And they will come and say, yeah, look, we can stop all the nuclear weapons. We've shown you we can do that. And we'll appoint one of your people to rule the planet. We'll give him technology to help you. And look, Jesus was one of us. We even got videos of the crucifixion. We were there. And people are going to say, even Christians are going to say, oh, really? Wow. And that is only if Christians were here. The elite will not be able to be exposed to that deception. But for those who are not yet believers, they will believe that these aliens are, friendly and bad, and that the friendly ones have gotten rid of all the bad ones. And as a plus, these friendly aliens are going to get rid of all of the Illuminati type people here, and people will cheer. Okay.
Right.
I would cheer if I didn't know better. I'd say, well, you got rid of the bad guys. Great.
You got rid of all the evil people. Right.
Right. But they're going to be deceivers. And I have debated with part of the Findhorn group, philosophical group, about the rapture. And you can see that in the background, it's a picture on the wall there.
Hmm.
The rapture is going to disappear a lot of people off of the earth all at once. And the fallen ones, the deception, are going to say, oh, yeah, look, those are people that have been sent back to be retrained in other planets because their vibrations weren't right. And that's what the Findorn people were telling people. They are expecting a large population of the planet to disappear, and it will be a part of the alien encounter, the good guys getting rid of the bad guys and people whose vibes weren't right. And
Right.
I debated over an audience with one of the Findhorn's leaders about this, and he and I stood across the audience from each other, and we went kind of nod. I know where you're coming from. He says, I know where you're coming from, but they're allowing it for a different reason. So they're all allowing for this rapture to occur at some time, um, and the very elect would be deceived by this if such were possible. It won't be possible because the very elect will not be here. I'm positive of that. That
Wow.
don't be deceived. You're going to see disclosure, full disclosure, and all that kind of rubbish, and they're going to explain it, and people will that don't know better will believe it.
Fall for it.
Yeah, and I don't. And as I say, we're leaving a record here for the people who are left behind to experience this and realize they've been fooled. And there will be people saved during the tribulation period, during this great period of deception. Um, there are just so many things in Saudi Arabia. There's a couple of secret bases I found in Google Earth. Put pictures on it on my show images page. I even found an image under the sand in Saudi Arabia of a triangular shaped craft that had a nuclear power source that melted down, and the sand covered it, and it still kind of erupted up around it. What am I telling you that for? I think I can show that somewhere. Uh, that would be in that would be in here, I think. Come on. And you can get to this yourself on our website. Going to my show images page, going to the Middle Eastern links. Where are we here? Yeah, here we go. All right, I'm going to share this with you and then get down to that. Where's the share button? Here we go. Okay. All right. Now you're on, you can see up here, Stan Deyo.
Whoa, what in the world is that in Egypt?
Oh, that's just one of these things. I'm going to just scan down here rapidly. Look at all these things I found. All these bases, strange things. Oh, and here is the symbol of Poseidon and Kayak, his wife. These are there in Saudi Arabia, and when you click on it, you will get usually. I don't see the lat long of this one, but this is an area that is walled off in Saudi Arabia. This one here is representing Poseidon's island and Poseidon himself, and that land and that channel that went to the mainland, and then his wife Cleato here, and the divisions of the water land that separated them, from the rest of the water around them. This is a sign. This is a symbol of Poseidon. This one here. Now, what I was going to show you, there's a lot of these things. I want to show you this. I found this area here, and this is going back just to maybe 2016. And this was what looked like a fizzled volcano there in Saudi Arabia. And the center of this so had uprisings, like pillars in the center of this, like an explosion of heat that went up like this, but not quite a volcano. And you can just see that there is a triangular shape to this image. There are 3 legs to it. So I did the natural thing. I plotted the contours of the equal contours, and it formed a triangular ship type shape with a power
Giant triangular ship. That's crazy.
Okay, and then if you look at it from the top here, the dimensions of it there, and I give the lat long of it, so you can go and see this yourself. They've now changed it. Since then, they've changed these surrounding terrain and stuff so that it doesn't show this. They've screwed up all the topography lines so that it doesn't plot out like this. But I saved this, fortunately, to prove the point. But that's one of the many things. I mean, look at you got stuff like this. What are these in Saudi Arabia? And hopefully with most of these, you can just see it down here. I have the lat long of them, so you can follow along and see where I'm talking about. There's just a lot of very, very interesting things.
One of them looked like a giant electrical circuit up above.
There.
Well, yeah, you get into them. The ones on the left, all those look like circuit boards.
Yeah.
That look like a circuit board.
Yeah. Now, there are about 1,400 of these structures like this here. These signs of Poseidon, the tail, the island at the end of it. There are about 14 or so 100 of these that we found, plus some other types of images. But I want to show you, here's a street of them. See all these keyhole images? Those are all there in the
Well, what would be the purpose of that, though? Why would
they don't know? They don't know. Fascinating though it is, and there's some more of them. You can see them there as I scan up through there. Okay, and I'm now going to race up here to the top to show you a hidden base. Okay, looking at this is the Jabal Tuwaik ridge, heads up to Riyadh, and there's a base over here, and there's a base here. Right here where I have that plus mark, there's a base with a radar dome, secret access, missile storage areas, and we'll just take a closer look at that here. Let's see which one shows me that here. And this is that base. And you can see here, these are missile launchers or storage
Hmm.
areas. Another one here and another one there. And again, there's the coordinates of it, so you can see it yourself. I've watched this over the last 7 or 8 years as it developed and added new buildings to the site. But then there is another one, which is off to the side. Let's see, that's not the one. Okay, this one, whoops. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here.
Okay. This one here, this little dark area here, we think was one of the alien bases that we shared with them. I was told this by my security team that this area here was, and that little area is what we just saw right there. This area here was a base that we shared with the aliens. We'd gotten that base permission from a sheikh in Saudi Arabia who had an extramarital affair that he didn't want his wife to know about, but our guys knew about. So they said, if you don't want us to tell, give us this location and we can have a base that we can have our operations. And it was so secret that unless you were flown in by one of our craft, that you were killed, you were destroyed, you could never get to this site.
Wow.
And that's what my security team told me, and that's the location there. And you can see even here that there are
Access
portion.
road.
Yeah, see these circular things and those like arrow type things. They're just part of the symbols that we saw elsewhere in Saudi Arabia, the 1400 or so. Um, they're just now exploring Saudi Arabia in great detail to see these things, and you
It
know,
almost looked like it's almost like it's instructions of landing places you would see if you were in the sky and you were visiting and you didn't know where you were going, like markers. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, it could be. It could very well be. I mean, these things are not very tall. They're made out of magma rock, black magma rock. But yeah, could be. And they're just such a, oops, they're just such a number of strange things. What is that, for instance? I encourage people to get on to Google Earth and start looking at Saudi Arabia. um, uh, Let me explain something here. In Google Earth, you can look at the sand dunes of Saudi Arabia and you say, oh, that's sand dunes, ho hum. And so you dive down, you zoom in, you see more sand dunes, and bigger detail, bigger. But if you keep pressing the down button, zoom, get underneath the sand dunes, you can see underneath and you can find secrets hidden underneath there. It's
Wow.
not obvious to you unless you zoom down way down deep. And I encourage people to do that because there's a lot of stuff I haven't had time to find yet there. Um,
Is there
and
a reason why all this is centered in Saudi Arabia? Have you ever put in thoughts to that?
well, let's see if the Antichrist is there and going to be ruling the world from there or somewhere up near that area. Um, it's Atlantis rising. We have a new prince of Atlantis, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, his power, Prince Mohammed bin Salman's power, is just enormous across the planet right now. People just don't realize how much he owns, and blockchain, global economic systems, banks, military alliances, oil supplies. He's one of the reasons that they're cutting down their oil supply is they're running out of oil. What they didn't want to tell everybody, and some of the other oil companies have found out, is that their oil reserves are overstated for Saudi Arabia. So he's shifting to tourism, to Atlantis of the Sands. They call it that.
Right.
All that kind of stuff to bring tourism, and they're building that Neom city, that's straight line city there,
Yeah. The line. Yeah.
and they're going to have tours up into Jordan to where the Exodus tale, where mountain is up on the mountain of God there. It's called Jabal El Lawz, and they're
Hmm.
going to take tours up there as part of that Neom, tourism attraction. So they're shifting their income base to other things, global economic systems, software, entertainment, that kind of stuff. And that's why Saudi Arabia is playing such a big part in this. But it's also built on the bones of Atlantis, which was not a good thing. Just it's not Christian for sure. Uh,
No. Wow.
yeah, they're just
Wow.
I'm trying to condense and remember everything from so many years of studying this, but yeah, we can talk another time, I guess, as questions arise.
Oh no, I'm definitely gonna have you back on. I'm gonna have you back on. We're gonna dig a lot deeper. This has been awesome, Stan. All right, let's do this. Before we hop off, what can my audience do to support you? What do you need them to do? So what is it, a book? Is it an audio? Is it a membership? What do we need to get?
Well, I guess our books, let me just see if I can do that for you while you're adjusting your image there. Okay, I'm going to go over here. Now you need to share this window. Okay, this is our home page. Now, all of our recent interviews, like for years, are under that button there. Show images is the page we were just on.
Okay.
And here are our books. Holly's book, Dare to Prepare, 632 pages of how to prepare for nuclear war for all kinds of emergencies. My book, The Cosmic Conspiracy, The Prudent Places to Live in America in Light of Various Things, How to Grow Your Own Gardens, um, Prophetic Perils, Holly wrote about the coming wars, the two wars in the Middle East. Townsend Brown and his legacy. I've got stuff that people would never see without this. I went to France to get some of this. My book on Gemstone One. It's on the way to look at electricity instead of plus and minus as energy and the equations for that. And then a ebook of the Vindicator Scrolls, where I first started exploring Garden of Eden, and a friend of ours' book on tips on garden secrets. Now, let's just let's pick this one here, Dare to Prepare. We go over to our website, and it shows you uh, a number of things in the table of contents that are going to be interesting. You know, firearms, and we consulted the police on this. Um, you know, you can just see gas mask terrorism, emergency water treatment. There's 69 chapters of all this, nuclear emergencies. We even got a hold of a book from the government, from FEMA, that was in the 50s about how to build an in-site, in-home shelter and how to last for 2 weeks, without being, nuked to death or whatever.
Wow.
Just all that is in her book there. It's just a tremendous Bible of survival of all kinds of stuff. And then you can look here at the Cosmic Conspiracy. That's, of course, my book, and it has all the normal stuff I talk about: the deception, the UFO deception, pretending to be Christ, and here's Satan above the pyramid. As I say, that these books are they're classics. They're here. Uh, Holly's book there on the prophetic perils. You can see here I've put the scriptures here and showing what she's talking about here on that side there. And there's the table of contents. I think somewhere with a Psalm 80 war here. Where are we here? Anyway, all these things here are for now the end times, and they're very current, really, believe it or not. And she put this together a couple years back. Let me just see what we've got. Signs in the sun. Oh boy, that's happening now. I watch the sun all the time. It is in a very bad state. It could very well put a Carrington event hit on our infrastructure, on our power and everything here. Where is that? What am I looking for here? There is a section in here, like a graph showing all the participants nowadays in the Psalm 83 war and in the Armageddon conflict. Oh, do you think I can find it now? I've gone brain dead here. Anyway, you can look through this and see yourself what is in that. And these are ways to support us to get these things. This here is a more of a technical paper to prove the inertial nature of electricity. And a lot of people have been downloading this that are scientists. And it's necessary to explain various other things in gravity, which is the next paper, Gemstone 2. It's not ready yet. Anyhow, that's a way to help us, is to do that. Or I suppose you can put donations in on our donation page. I don't know. where we go to get that here. Anyway, it's somewhere on this shopping cart. I'm trying to find it here. Yeah, on our shopping cart, there's a way to do gifts to Stan and Holly Deyo in $10 increments. You can help that way as well.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do, guys. As you're watching this, head over to the website. If you don't want to buy a book, let's do some donations, guys. I'm definitely going to do, starting tomorrow, I'm going to make me quite a few donations. Let me make a note of that. And I'm going to make sure I email Wes and tell him, because I get busy. He'd be like, James, did you do what you said you were going to do? I'd be like, no, I didn't do it yet.
Yeah. James, it's been a pleasure talking and sharing with you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. If you don't mind, I would like to have you back in a maybe like 30, 45 days, and let's dig deeper into anti-gravity. I just don't like holding people for super long, because what ends up happening is you burn out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We'll break it up into a couple of things and make you can look at the resources I've given you on my website and see what questions you want to formulate, and we'll do it. We'll do it.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it so much. I really do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been another great episode. I mean, this was one for the record books for us guys. And Stan, we want to thank you. And I'll have you back on soon, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it, James. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Lord bless you now.
All right.
Bye-bye.